what WARP was before
They
he
didn't
came.
have a guy. How do you not have a guy? Like I don't know, 10 years after Moneyball, 15 years after Moneyball?
But I think it showed how the previous regime shunned that. They thought you could just pass an eyeball test or just look at RBIs or look at ERA.
What's the problem with having more information? Like I never understood.
I know that scares people.
It's like you can look at a dude, and that's cool whether you can see whether or not he can play or not. But if you can look at a dude and have additional information, isn't that better?
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, Ruben Amaro isn't just your regular, analytic cat.
No, not at all. He clearly isn't your regular kind of dude. That's why he's going. That's why Matt Klentak's here, and now Pete Maccannon's here as well. And I don't know about you, but he seems like the right kind of guy for this type of team.
I hate to say it, but he's the bridge guy. I mean,
he's
until you get a Joe Madden or whoever to take it to the. I mean,
Tito.
Yeah, no, I mean, like that's. I mean, but that's no fault of Pete Mackanon. I mean, he was a career base coach or just a bench coach.
Right. He's a career bench coach, but again, with this kind of young team, teaching these guys the fundamentals, teaching these guys the basics of being a pro. I think that's important.
Yeah.
And again,
the culture's being built right now, which is good. And so then once you get the other guys in here like a Crawford, and then now you got money to play with. I mean, before you didn't have that money. Now you don't have Howard to pay anymore. So I mean, in 2 years, I mean, you'll be able to give a terrible contract to somebody.
Yeah, you'll give a terrible contract, but that's fine because you'll have the money, and especially with that TV money coming from the local TV money, you're gonna have a little bit of flexibility to surround these young guys. But like you said, I think it's very important. They're building a culture right now, which is key because you have guys who again aren't sure how to be pros necessarily.
Like Odubel Herrera, like McCann had no problem benching him a couple times, just to show okay. Like I mean, you don't want and that's the thing I like about Carson Wentz is. I mean, this is the hardest working guy, one of the hardest working guys on the team.
Right.
He's not slacking. You don't want, Odubel Herrera is probably one of the better players on the team. You don't want that guy slacking.
Right. And the thing is, when Odubel Herrera slacked, Pete Mackanon checked it immediately, which sent a message to everybody else on the team, you can't be this guy.
Yeah.
You can't slack. No matter how good you are, none of you guys are too good enough to get benched. If you don't run out balls, which is good for the guys on the team, and it's good for the young guys that they're going to bring up, who had issues with this, a.k.a. Nick Williams, which we'll talk about in a second. But you have Mackanon, and again, they haven't won a lot. The 63 wins in 2015, 71 this year. But again, the arrow's pointing up for this team. They have a nice young core.
You could argue it's pointing up the most
Out of all four teams?
I'd say the Eagles because they have a franchise quarterback.
Right.
I mean, and can you say that Carson Wentz is closer to being a franchise quarterback than Joel Embiid is being a franchise player? Or any other guy on Flyers or Phillies?
I hate copping out. I'm going to cop out on this one. I'm going to say they're probably equal.
Okay.
I mean, in terms of franchisability, I think Carson Wentz and Joel Embiid are right there. They're right. I might even give Joel a little. I think Joel's really good. He's really good. But they're right there. The Phillies don't have that guy yet. They have a lot of good guys.
Yeah.
They have Aaron Nola. He's not an ace.
But you could easily get that guy in free agency.
Right. And you have money to get that guy. But you have a guy like Aaron Nola who averages nearly 10 strikeouts per 9 innings.
Even though he's gotten bit by the injury bug a little bit.
Right, little injury bug, little UCL strain, missed the end of this season. But you got a guy like him. We already talked about Odubel Herrera. You have a guy like Maikel Franco, only 24 years old, 25 home runs, 88 RBI last year. But he appears to be your solid cornerstone guy going forward. You have a couple other guys that you may want to ride with for a little while. They may be bridge guys. Cameron Rupp and Tommy Joseph. I don't know if those are going to be your guys going forward. In the future at catcher and first base specifically, but they have a little bit of pop, not as much as you would like necessarily. But they have a couple of guys that you can ride with. You also have Cesar Hernandez and Freddie Galvis to kind of round out the end. So they're in a pretty good spot as it is. Again, once they start to gel and figure out how to be pros, how to move guys along, how to do the basic baseball fundamental stuff, they'll be a pretty decent team. And then you have other guys coming up as well, as we mentioned. Nick Williams and Dylan Cousins are probably the next guys up, and of course, the guy waiting in the wings at shortstop, your future shortstop of the future, Jimmy Rollins 2.0, one J.P. Crawford. So you have guys coming up, and you have flexibility to trade some of these guys even if you want to.
Because I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to trade Herrera.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. Like Herrera's a really tradable guy.
Yeah, because I think his ceiling is close to peaking.
Right.
And I mean, you'd like your center fielder to be a little better.
A little bit better, and you have Roman Quinn, who I think they would want to play in center field.
Yeah.
So you have Quinn. You can roll out Quinn and Williams and Cousins or whoever, and be or sign a guy because you probably at some point need to sign a veteran at some point to get some more pop because you had like zero pop in the outfield as well. When it comes to pitchers, you have a couple of other guys as well. Jared Eichhoff, Vince Velasquez, Hector Neris could be your closer. Jemar Gomez. So you have a couple of other guys, not necessarily like a core, but you have other guys you can build around. And maybe if you keep Jeremy Hellickson another year, maybe you have, again, just another couple bridge guys to kind of hold it down until you actually spend big money on big guys.
And speaking of, I think this ownership group is now willing, to spend money. I mean, in their golden era, they had no problem spending money.
And you got another team that doesn't mind spending money. I guess they don't mind spending. Give the money to guys already on their team who do nothing with the money or nothing for the money. See Philadelphia, because I still can't get over this Vinny Curry thing. But we'll get to that in a second. How did the Eagles get to where they are now? Well, much like the other teams in this town, they haven't made the playoffs in a while. They haven't won a playoff. It's a long time.
That was like
in the NFL.
That was pre-Obama.
January 2009, the last time they won
a
playoff game. That's a long time in the NFL.
Darn, it's almost 7 years.
It's a long time. It's a long time.
Yeah, they're due.
Yeah, they're overdue. And we thought that Chip was going to be the guy when Charles P. Kelly was going to be the guy to deliver that for us. But the wheels after year 3, after you got the guys to pee in cups and monitor the wheels fell off that wagon pretty quick in the Chip. And, of course, that led to the Eagles hiring the guy who no one wanted, but the guy they love the most, Doug Peterson. Now, we'll talk about Doug in a second, but the most important thing that happened this offseason, of course, is moving up from 13 to 8 to 2 to grab the guy that Eagles fans, and I think we agree, is probably going to be their franchise quarterback for the next 10 years.
Thank God.
Carson Wentz. Now, what is it about Carson Wentz? What have you seen so far to Carson Wentz that make you excited that he's going to be
his makeup, his mental bounce-back ability, the way he commands a team, just the overall total package. And I mean, not to say that, arm strength, his improvisational. Improvisational.
There you go.
Darn, I can't say that again. Like his way to create plays, just overall, and basically, just in so many words, making other players better.
Yeah, he makes other guys better.
You like to make good players great.
Right.
You don't want to make awful players terrible.
And the thing, as you said, just to go along with what you said, like he's in a spot where he could easily kind of I don't want to say crumple up and fold, but it's like nobody's helping you out. And like a lot of times when a quarterback is basically he can yell at everybody on that team.
Yeah.
And say yo, I need a little bit of help.
But you know what? He's very quick to fall on the sword himself, which I think is a very admirable quality for a quarterback. Because last thing you want to do as a quarterback is throw your deflect criticism to your teammates.
Right. You don't want to be that guy who's throwing dudes under the bus and said, "Well, if our receivers made a couple more plays, then we would have won this game." No, you as a quarterback, you have to take all the shots yourself. Like you have to, even if it's not your fault. And a lot of the times this year, it hasn't been his fault. But you got to be the guy who takes those shots, and that's why Carson Wentz, again, alongside whatever he's done on the field, but that's part of the reason why Carson Wentz appears to have everything that we would want in a franchise quarterback like that. But the thing is, he doesn't have, as we said, he doesn't have a lot of help.
No.
So I'm not sure how close the Eagles are, and I know it's the NFL, and I know it's a different kind of league, but how close are they really to becoming a contender?
See, I think the team that's most likely to make the playoffs, I think, are the Eagles. The first team to be a there's a difference between just making the playoffs in the NFL and being a perennial team.
Right.
I think if they were to get one better skill position player, I think they could make the playoffs this year. But I think in terms of you need to rebuild this offensive line to make it last. Right. You can build a patchwork offensive line to last for a year, but it's not gonna last.
So how far away are? Like,
they're not. They're
reasonably from being a contender. Like reasonably, I think obviously it's not going to happen.
Heck, you know what? They're probably the closest thing to a contender too.
What's that? The Eagles?
Yeah.
No, what I'm saying, like how, like is it a year away? Is it 2 years away? Is it like
at the most 3-2?
So 3 years away from being an 11-win team.
Being the Arizona Cardinals.
Being the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Being the Cardinals. All right.
3 years.
So what needs to happen? Let me put your feet to the fire. What needs to happen for this Eagles team? Like, I imagine they need to sign and or draft certain positions. What positions do they need to address?
Draft a left tackle. Draft a tackle.
Okay.
And trade for a wide receiver.
So they're one wide receiver and one tackle away from being a contender.
Yes. And a cornerback. I mean, it's just you're not going to have everything. I mean, but I think the two most important positions for me are solidifying the offensive tackle position and getting an impact skill position player.
So given even with the situation with Lane Johnson, because you don't know what the next time he's going to be, and given the age of Jason Peters, one tackle, one wide receiver, and maybe a cornerback is enough for this team to be that. Given how much they'll grow over the next few years,
I think so. Yeah,
still have no running back.
But I mean, the NFL is such a like. I think once you stabilize that offensive line, you'll be able to get any competent running back to run behind that line.
All right, that's a fair point. So as we wrap it up, and we have like 30 seconds, give me your 1 through 4. Which the state of the union of these? Which of these teams are in what order? These local teams
in terms of
being a contender.
Okay.
Which one of these teams are closest, in your opinion, to be 1 through 4?
Eagles, Sixers, Flyers, Phillies.
See, I think it's Eagles.
No. Sorry, Eagles, Phillies, Sixers, Flyers.
You think Flyers are last?
Oh no, Flyers, Sixers. Oh, sorry, Eagles, Phillies, Sixers. Oh, Flyers, Sixers.
I would flip Flyers and Phillies. I think Sixers are probably last, but I'd flip the Flyers because again, it's hockey. I don't think.
And that's the thing for basketball. You're not going to not get young. Right. I mean, they're very young. If they were, that's where I think for the Sixers now, you need to start signing not just veterans, good veterans.
Good veterans. Irisan Ilyasova. Those kind of guys. No, seriously, no. We're nothing for nothing. We're in a pretty decent spot when it comes to our teams. Again, like they're not world beaters, not close to being world beaters yet, but they're not terribly far away from being that. And
the arrow is definitely pointing up for every. I think you can say not even slightly up.
It's definitely pointing up for each team, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing for us to say here on the Broad Shoe Line, and that's the last thing we'll say here.
Thank you, everyone,
on the Broad Shoe Line. Thank you for everybody for tuning in to us. Again, you can check us out each and every Saturday. 10 a.m. Eastern here on WPPM LP Philadelphia. This is Roy Burton, and I'm here with Chris Domingo. Mr. Domingo, take us out, please.
Adios, amigos.
See you next week, everybody.